أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Before the break, we were talking about what? Before the break, we were talking about the human impacts on water system. And we said that when you're talking about human impacts on water system, it refers to the changes caused by human activities that affect the quantity, the quality, movement, and sustainability of water within the hydrological cycle. So that is what we basically said. Now, we started by saying there are very many activities. And the first activity we said that is over extraction and over abstraction. So sometimes we as human beings, we excessively withdraw water from the rivers, lakes, and underground, at a rate faster than it can naturally be replenished. So when we do this, it leads to an imbalance between the water supply and the water demand. So you find that the demand is high, but the supply is low. Now, and I told you that when you're talking about components or forms of over extraction, number one, you have the ground overuse. Many people nowadays, they are digging wells. And when you are digging a lot of wells and boreholes, the table plate keeps going down. It's keep going down because we are using a lot of water. Then number two, I also talked about the water surface diversion. We have the natural river, but the natural river, we divert the water to a dam. Because, for example, we need water, like the case of Ethiopia. They divert the water from River Nile so that they can produce enough electricity for their countrymen. But this is going to have a net effect to Egypt and Sudan because they're not going to have enough water. All the water is going to the dam. And the dam is it's not one, it is the biggest dam. I think in the world now, it's the biggest dam. Now, so these are the two ways that water can be over-extracted. Groundwater overuse, excess pumping. We dig the holes, the boreholes, we pump and pump. Then number two, surface water. We divert, rivers divert for irrigations or dam. So this reduces downstream flow. Now, what are the impacts of all this? Number one, falling groundwater levels. So the table plate is going down, down and down, and eventually you'll not have water. Drying rivers and lakes. Why do rivers and lakes dry? Because of the diversions. Then reduce agricultural productivity over time. If you don't have water, what is going to happen? Agriculture is going to go down because agriculture needs water. So these things are related. And that is why you find many boreholes drying in parts of the Horn of Africa due to overuse. You find that you dig a borehole, but after 1 year, the borehole is dry. Why? Because we are using the water excessively, israfan. Okay? Now, number two is pollution. That is one of the biggest activity, that affects water availability. Now, what is water pollution? So water pollution is the contamination, talawuth, contamination of water bodies by what? Harmful substances. And these harmful substances, they do what? They degrade the water quality. And number two, they make it unsafe for use. And pollution occurs when these harmful materials enter water systems. The plastics, the fertilizer, they do what? Pollution occurs when harmful materials enter water systems faster than they can be naturally diluted or cleaned. Now, What are the major sources of pollution? What do we normally do that pollutes the water? Number one, agricultural runoff. The fertilizers we use in our farms, the pesticides we use, the animal waste, they are washed into rivers during rainfall. So when it rains, the rain carries all these things, the fertilizers and the pesticides inside the water sources, the lakes, and the rivers. Number two, industrial discharge. And this is what pollutes the water a lot in Africa. The chemicals, the heavy metals, toxic waste. So they are often released untreated into water bodies. Then lastly, urban waste, the towns. So their sewage, sometimes they diverge their sewage to the rivers. You can imagine. The plastics we are using, sometimes we dump the plastic in the water sources. Household waste, we wash. When we finish washing, we drain the water or pour the water in the water sources. So the poor waste management increases what? Increases contamination. So the net effect, what is the effect of all these things? Number one, reduce water quality. Number two, high water treatment costs. The government uses a lot of money to treat this water. Then number three, health risk. Many people in Africa are dying. The waterborne diseases like cholera, the typhoid. Then the ecosystem is damaged. The ecosystem, you find that the fish is going to die inside the water because of the algae. Number three, another activity that affects water supply and availability, land use changes. How do we use the land? So land use changes refers to the alteration of natural land, the forests, the wetlands, into agriculture or urban areas, affecting how water moves and is stored in the environment. So when you're talking about land use, sometimes you have the forest, a lot of trees. Sometimes we will cut. This is what is known as deforestation. We are cutting a lot of trees. When we are cutting a lot of trees, it affects the water pattern. No, it affects the rainfall pattern. So we're not going to have enough rain. If we don't have enough rainfall, we don't have enough water. So that is the first component, deforestation, removal of trees. So we should always ensure that we don't cut a lot of trees. Number two, urbanization. Concrete surface prevent infiltration, leads to rapid runoff and flooding. Urbanization, we are building a lot of houses, and these houses actually prevents the flow of water. The foundations that we dig, it affects the surface water. Then number three, the wetland destruction. So when you're talking about the wetland, so wetlands act as natural sponges. So their loss reduces water storage and purification. So even the wetland, governments are building industries in those wetlands. People are building even houses in those wetlands. We don't have enough wetlands in Africa. So what is the effect of all these things? Increased flooding. Flooding, that is why if it is raining, we are going to have a lot of floods because there are no trees to absorb the excess water. Reduce groundwater recharge, soil erosion, and land degradation, loss of natural water infiltration system. Now, another thing is the climate change. So when you're talking about climate change, it refers to long-term changes in temperature, which is happening nowadays, and weather patterns that significantly affect water systems and the global water cycle. This is what we were talking about. Like nowadays, the weather pattern has changed. So it no longer rains when it's supposed to rain. So number one is the altered rainfall patterns. So some regions receive less rain and others experience excessive rainfall. So some areas they receive more, some areas they receive less. And this affects the water supply and distribution. Increased drought frequency. Nowadays, there are longer periods, longer dry periods in many areas, and this reduces water availability. Then number 3, more intense floods, like what is happening in Kenya now. Heavy rainfall events, increased surface runoff. The increased surface runoff, people are dying, properties are being destroyed. Now, what are the impacts of the climate change? Number 1, water scarcity. Unaka nudra, we don't have enough water in vulnerable regions. Number 2, flood disaster. Lot of rains, lot that comes with the disaster, Karitha, and a lot of infrastructure are damaged with the floods. Number 3, increased pressure on water governance system. So all the climate change, it brings a lot of pressure on governance system. That is, we need to come with systems that we need to come with systems that can make good decisions. And this decision can help the supply and the demand side of water. Now, khulasatul qawl is that all these human activities are reshaping the hydrological cycle. Meaning, so all these human activities, it affects the natural water flow, is being altered, water availability is becoming less predictable, and water quality is declining in many areas. So, because of all these things, what happened? This makes water governance, the planning, management, and policy, it makes it more, number 1, complex. Because all these activities makes making decision and planning very difficult. Number 2, it makes planning more urgent. We need to plan and rethink. Then we have also the issue of essential for sustainability. We have to plan, make decisions to ensure that we have enough water today, tomorrow, and for the future generation. Now, another element is what is known as water as a common pool resource. So when you're talking about water as a common pool resource, madha nani? So a common pool resource is a resource that is difficult to exclude users from, but where one person's use reduces availability for others. So when you are talking of common pool resource, for example, if you have a river, you cannot exclude others from using the river. Hey, please don't use the river. Don't use the Lake Mohammed. No, you cannot. No, it is a common pool. All the people, they have a right. But once person use reduces availability for others. Mohammed today can decide, I'm going to use the water for irrigation. So you, Mohammed, using the water for irrigation, Khadija is not going to get enough because you are using a lot. So we are going to have an imbalance. So you deciding to use water in this way, it is going to affect the other person. So, and the water common sources, for example, the rivers, the Mujtama, all of them, they are using water. You cannot deny anybody from using the river. The lakes, you cannot deny anybody. You have the right to use the lake. The groundwater, you cannot deny anybody the right to dig a borehole. No. So what are the key characteristics of this common pool resource? Number 1, shared access. In many countries, the rivers, people use it together. Then number 2, limited supply. You don't have enough of rivers and lakes. Then number 3, risk of overuse. Sometimes some people, they are going to do israf, and because of the israf, it's going to affect some people. Now, another element is the tragedy of the commons. What is the meaning of the tragedy of the commons? When individuals act in their own interest, al-ananiya. So this is what is known as the mentality, the mindset of the capitalist. Like you are Muhammad, you are just using this water. La mubalah, you don't care about the others. And Islamically, it's not allowed. Because Allah has created the water lil jami'. So لازم يكون هناك الاقتصاد عند الاستخدام المياه. But sometimes people, they don't care. لا مبالاة. They don't care about their neighbor. So when individuals act in their own interest, overuse occurs, israf, and resource is depleted. So the water is not going to be enough because some people, they're using a lot. So if Muhammad is using much, then the other person is not going to get. So look at this example. Farmers over pumping groundwater. So I have a big farm in Mogadishu or in Garowe or whatever. I have a very big farm. And I have around 6 boreholes in my farm. I don't care about the mujtama. That is their problem. So I'm using the water to do what? I'm pumping it to water my plants. I'm not thinking about anybody. So I'm over pumping. Then it will reach a time we are not going to have enough water. So what is the result of over pumping? Aquifer depletion. The groundwater is going to be depleted. Just because of you not thinking about others. Okay? Now, so what are the governance implications? So, because there is anania, because there is the tragedy of the commons, هناك الأنانية, what should we do? What needs to happen? Number one, that is where governance and policy, al-qawanin wa siyasat, it should be there. So it should be there to manage and restrict Muhammad, so that Muhammad don't think only about himself. But al-masalih al-am muqaddima ala masalih al-khas. That is why governance and policies needs to be there. So sometimes without rules, if we don't have rules, if some countries, they don't have water governance and policy. So what will happen? Overuse is rough because nobody is managing. Number two, conflict, as-sira'at. So people are going to have conflicts. Water, like the issue of Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. There is a conflict now because Ethiopia has decided, khalas, they are going to build a dam without even consulting the others. Then the resource collapse. If there is no governance, the water is going to finish. But if we have good governance, sustainable use, we'll have water for today and tomorrow. Then shared benefits, maswali al-am, shared benefits. Muhammad needs water, Khadija, so everybody is going to be happy. Now, what is the solution to all this? What is the solution to this al-ananiya, the tragedy of the commons? Number one, we need to have regulation. We need to have policies governing water. Number two, community management. You know, community management basically means al-miyah lil-jami', laysa li-fard. Property rights. We also have to ensure that, so sometimes there is the issue of property. Who owns what? Who owns the land? Because sometimes you can buy a land and this land has water inside. Is it your water because it is your land? So this is something that the law, when we shall be talking about the law, we will see how do you handle this case. Because you buy a very big land with your money and maybe there is a water source inside the land. So does the government have any right, or you are the private owner? So the property rights should be determined so that it doesn't bring problem. Then they should be monitoring how people are using water and there should be enforcement. In some countries, we have the police, we have the Department of Police, one department. Of course, in many countries, we have the Navy department. They're the ones who are always monitoring to ensure that the water is being protected in terms of usage and supply. Now, the last part of our lesson today is about the water, energy, food nexus. What is the meaning of this? It basically means these three things are related and they need to be balanced. That is why in any country, you will find there is the Ministry of Industry and Energy, then there is the Ministry of Agriculture, then there is the Ministry of Water. These three ministries, they always have to work together because energy affects water, water affects food, food affects energy. So they are interdependent. They need each other, these three areas. So this nexus refers to the interconnection between water, energy, and food. They are interconnected. So we have what is known as interdependency. Like they need each other. They're like brothers and sisters. So we need water to get food. So if we have enough water, we have enough food. We also need water to get energy. We also need energy to get water. We also need food to get water. Food is related to water because agriculture is the largest water user. So decision in one sector affects others. So that is why governance, water governance policies, they are very important. So these three ministries, these three departments, they should not be working dependently. They should be working interdependently because they need each other. So, for example, expanding irrigation. So if we decide today we are going to expand irrigation, what will happen? There will be increased food production, but may reduce water for cities. So one decision is going to affect the other sector. You decide to build a dam, big dam, but maybe this big dam is going to affect somewhere else. They are not going to have enough. So what is the governance challenge? Policies often made in silos. What is the meaning of this? Policies made in silos means decisions are made separately by different sectors without collaboration or integration. In an exam, they can ask you this question. What is the meaning of decisions or policies being made in silos? So policies made in silos means decisions are made separately. Separately means this energy department, they don't care about the food department. The food department, they don't care about the water department, which is very wrong. What should happen? The need for integrated decision making. These three departments, they should not work separately in silos. That you are in East, another one is in West, another one is in South. No. We need to have an integrated decision making. That is the only way we are going to ensure that we have enough water. But in Africa, there is Ashwaia. These three departments, they always don't work together. Now, linking hydrology and governance. So somebody can ask, why are we talking about hydrology? This course is about governance. Are they related? Yes, they are related. Why? Because natural systems, which is the hydrology, plus human system, equals to water outcomes. So water is not only affected by the natural system. No, it is also affected by the human system. For example, you can have a region with sufficient rainfall. For example, in Mogadishu, you can have a lot of water from the rain. That is a natural system. But if Mogadishu is having poor infrastructure and weak governance, still there will be water scarcity. So you can be having a lot of rain every year, but still the human system is affecting the water supply. So understanding water governance requires both sides. It requires scientific knowledge. Our lesson today about hydrology, you need to understand, you need to have some scientific knowledge. Then number two, social understanding. You need to know about the institutions, the powers, and behavior. So a mushakal, a cocktail of the natural system and the human system. You need to have some knowledge about these two. So the natural system plus human system equals to water outcome means what? The way water behaves, this is the natural system, combined with how people manage it, the human system, determines the final result we see. You know? So the water system, the natural system, this control how much water exists and where it goes. And the human system, the governance, they control how water is used, shared, and protected. Now, so this is still just summarizing the same thing I'm explaining. So water outcomes, the result is water availability, blah, 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 a lot of stories. Now, these are just some exercise. You'll do it during your free time. Mathalan, a rural area dependent on groundwater. We have an area that's just depending on groundwater. The population is increasing, more wells drill, falling water table. So this is a scenario, this is a case. So discussion question, why is the resource declining? You can be asked. Because there are more wells. If the more wells you are drilling, the more it affects the water. Who is responsible? What governance mechanism could help? Like now, what can you do to ensure that? You need to have a policy. The ministry has to have a policy to ensure that we don't have, for example, every region, you have only one borehole or one well. But if everybody wakes up today and decides they need a well. Now, another activity that can help you is what is known as resource mapping. So you map water sources in there. For example, if you are in Hergesa, what are the water sources in Hergesa? You map them. You have a river, you have a lake, you have a groundwater. Who are the users in Hergesa? Who are using this? The household, the farmers, the industries. So you should be having that knowledge. When you're talking about water governance, somebody can ask you in your area, what are the sources? You have to know what are the sources and how many people are using those sources. Then it can help you to make decision. Then nexus thinking exercise, if a government builds a new dam, what are the impacts on water, energy, and food? You can be asked this in an exam. Like if a government builds a new dam today, this dam, how is it going to affect the water, number one? How is it going to affect energy? And how is it going to affect food? So they are testing to see your understanding of those three things. How they're related to each other. Because we said one decision here affects another there. Then you can also decide to choose a local or national water issue and analyze it using Any issue in Somali, you analyze it using hydrological factors, then the human factors. Explain how both interact to shape the problem. So, for example, in Somali, how does the hydrological factors and the human factors combine to ensure that there is enough water? This is the thinking you should be having at this level. Okay? So now this is the summary of our lesson. Okay, these are the summary, and that's the end of our lesson. So, is there any question before we finish? Is there any question? So I'm sending the link. I'm sending the attendance now. Please, there are some students yesterday. They did not take the attendance. So they were absent. So please ensure that you always take your attendance using the link. I have sent the link in the group. Just please click the link, write your name, write your mobile number, and submit. If you don't submit, I'm going to close the link. So it means that you are absent if you don't use the link to send your name. Is it clear? So I've sent, just check your groups. Now, I will also send the lesson. I will upload the lesson in my YouTube channel. So you have to subscribe to the channel. Every time I finish, I will be saying, so you will be getting the lessons in the YouTube channel. Just subscribe to the channel. So that is the end of our lesson, inshallah. I think we'll meet next week, inshallah. Okay. If there is no question, we will meet, inshallah, next week. Okay.
Okay, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Welcome. Assalam.